Last week, Las Vegas, Nevada of the United States hosted the CES, International Consumer Electronics Show. There they saw new technologies that open another exciting year of IT progress. So we want to talk about today the global tech trend for the new year, right here in this program, Upfront.
Autonomous vehicles controlled by the artificial intelligence grab a lot of attention, along with its virtual reality technology and voice recognition function. Household appliances with advanced artificial intelligence capabilities catch the eyes of people. Such cutting-edge IT skills have been introduced at the CES 2017, which is one of the biggest global consumer technology trade shows that has recently been held in Las Vegas. A lot of latest trends in the field of IT industry have been introduced at the trade show, which has celebrated its 50th anniversary this year. Also, during the event, a lot of converged and integrated technologies have focused more on the connectivity, which has shown the actual beginning of the era of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. IT companies from the US and China opened large-scale exhibition halls as part of an effort to seek ways to boost the development of the industry by cooperating with a lot of global companies. Amid the rising competition to take a leading role in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Korean companies have also introduced advanced IT capabilities by showing premium TV and smart refrigerator. What would be the outlook for Korea's IT industry amid the rapidly changing global IT market? Korea has been the first runner in the global smartphone penetration rate, as 9 out of 10 Koreans are using smartphones. Fields of IoT, or Internet of Things, as well as the smart home market have also grown rapidly by combining with the IT skills. However, now is the time to overhaul the competitiveness of Korea's IT industry within the global IT market. IT industry and the Fourth Industrial Revolution have risen as the key growth engines for the future. Upfront discusses the current status of Korea's IT industry and necessary measures for the further growth within the rapidly changing global IT market.
For our discussion today, we have interesting guests. On my left side, Sunny Lee, Managing Partner of Bain&Company, joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
And on my right side, Dong-il, CEO of VoleR Creative, joining us as well. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me here.
I guess we should talk about the CES last week, happening in Las Vegas. Mr. Lee, your impression, what was the most interesting
I think
thing?
it's very interesting. If I were to summarize it in 3 words, it's just all about mobility, connectivity, and I would say the convergence. At one show, I thought it was more like an auto show where you have a lot of introduction and basically convergence between the electronics and automobiles, electronics, drones, and electronics, and also with the appliances. So there's a lot more convergence and connectivities with the applications.
Convergence is the keyword. I think that relates to the Fourth Industrial Revolution we have talked about a lot in this program, but which we will also continue to discuss later part of this program. Your impression?
Well, most interesting thing for me was that the things that we have seen from the science fiction is coming to the reality. Just like Mr. Lee said, the convergence is a key thing. During the keynote speech from the NVIDIA, it was strongly showing the artificial intelligence and how AI is going to be driving the car. Not only driving the car, but actually also sensing the human emotion. And this is simply, we are walking into the new era of artificial intelligence.
Right. And closer to home, I guess, looking back last year, 2016, what kind of gadgets I've tried. 4 years actually, I've been trying to get used to the robot vacuum cleaner, for instance, in my home. It's kind of like a little bit more primitive, relatively speaking, device I guess we can use at home. But I guess they're getting better. Last year, I bought a new model and it works much better than the previous years. And the smartwatch, I was trying to get used to it, but I never could really got to mastering the device, for instance. So closer home, I guess, Mr. E, your experience of using this cutting edge
Well,
stuff.
I think you're making the switch, right? So, for example, I used to basically search with my the keywords, but now I'm starting to use a Siri with the voice recognition more and more. Now, 4 years ago, because the recognition, the confidence level wasn't that up, so
Right.
you have to repeat it yourself and over and over. Well, that's gotten a lot better. Today I'm wearing Fitbit band
Right, right.
and a Samsung Electronic S3 stuff, and I'm constantly comparing which is better and so on. Now you can actually connect this to your weight scale every morning, and it automatically downloads and uploads.
Right, right.
So some of this stuff is getting much more convenient, and also I think they're uploading a lot more applications than before.
Every time it gets better.
Every time it gets better.
Not to be anything negative about it, but it looks like you're shackled by the high tech on both hands here. Your personal experience last year or recently?
Well, the most interesting thing is definitely the voice recognition of the artificial intelligence. We are moving more towards to personal use of AI. I personally bought a device called Alexa, which is the artificial intelligence speaker that was developed by Amazon.
Oh, right.
And
English only?
English only, unfortunately.
Okay.
I
Works for you.
I haven't had a chance to try the Nugu, which was
Korean.
developed by the SK Telecom.
Right, right.
I know that IBM Watson is now learning Korean to communicate with the Korean people.
Right.
But one thing I was amazed by the Amazon's Alexa is that you can really work with the human voice and also recognition level of the human language is very precise, even from the far distance. And also 2016, Google has made an announcement on Google Home, which will be fully utilized for the home purpose. And we will be able to give a command to AI speaker to conduct a lot of the tasks that we would normally do with the personal app. I see that the introduction of artificial intelligence will actually make the apps obsolete, because a lot of things that we do today in the mobile phones is through the apps.
Well, personally speaking, I think there's some kind of barrier, at least for me, to overcome switching from entering the data or like my command to actually speaking the command itself in human language. Looks like both of you have already overcome that barrier. What is it that I have to try to do to overcome that cross the line?
Yeah, I think instead of us trying to overcome, what's increasingly interestingly happening is that the machines actually trying to lower that barrier for us.
Oh.
For example, many years ago, most call centers were located in
India?
In India, in about 80%.
Right.
And one of the issues with the U.S. customers were when they call the call center,
Right.
you hear this Indian accent.
Right,
They were
right.
put off by that.
Right, right.
So what a lot of the companies in India did is they actually train Indian operators
American
to
accent?
speak American accent, or whether depending on your zip code, that
Right.
goes to Texan accent or Northeastern accent, and
God.
so on, Californian accent. It took them about 6 months to actually train them. The same technology now applies to some of these applications and learnings, where you call and they understand your accent.
Oh, I
so
see.
the way you're speaking, the way your pattern is, and they could actually do a much more accurate on your voice
Fascinating.
recognition. And I would probably predict in the next few years the typing will go away.
Fascinating. It looks like, like we talked about convergence at the beginning here. So machine and human kind of getting not mixed up, but becoming one here. And one of the key trends is, of course, virtual reality, where actually we perceive reality that's created by the machine, and virtual reality and augmented reality, I suppose. You're an expert on this. What are the most current trends? I mean, I thought it was fascinating to hear about the voice recognition, but VR and AR.
Well, for virtual reality, now we have come to a stage where the product is can be consumed by normal consumers. In the past, the lack of graphic fidelity and lack of the component fidelity, even the sensor precision was very low. So in order to realize the virtual reality content, it was almost impossible. I mean, in 1990s, there's a certain talk about virtual reality, but all the components that's necessary to make the industry to the consumer level was lacking. But now we have come to stage where we can see a believable computer graphics. Computer graphics has become so real that it looks like almost human being. And also, the price of the virtual reality headset now has come down to a sub-level of $500. So it is quite affordable to the consumer level. And also hand tracking, motion tracking, eye tracking. I mean, those are very precise nowadays too. So it looks like now you're fully immersed into the new time and space.
And when we talk about VR and AR, we're not just talking about the game industry here, right?
No.
Tell us just a little bit briefly about the areas that the VR and AR is coming into.
Sure. The VR is now being perceived as an alternative way to travel. So if
Rather than actually physically traveling, you just get to see the places?
Yes. For example, let's say if you're a 90-year-old grandmother. So in normal situation, when you're traveling, you need three conditions. You need time, you need money, and you need to be physically fit. I remember my grandmother, who was 87 years old at the time, was trying to travel to Korea from Canada.
Right.
And when I bought her the airplane ticket, the Korean said, can you actually give us a doctor's note that she is permitted to travel more than 10 hours of flight? Now, when you are that age, you're not going to be able to travel in a well condition.
Right.
In
Now it
virtual
has
reality.
become almost possible for people like your grandmother to
you know, having the flight experience in perhaps Grand Canyon.
Wow.
Or you can be completely different place, like in space, Mars. For example. So
well, it reminds me of my mother who wants to visit Rome. She's in her mid-80s and not in a physical condition to do so. So if that technology is available, that really means a lot to me
so
here.
the two major things that we have to look at for the virtual reality is the time and space.
Time and space.
And this is going to be the first time for the human to actually control the time and space. So when that happens, the things that we have to pay a lot because we weren't able to control time and space will be changed.
And we have to move on. We have the different topics to touch upon. I'm sure we can talk continuously about the VR and everything. AI is, of course, an important part of increasingly VR creation here. Mr. Yi, as someone who has been watching this market, I have to ask you, what do you see in terms of what's coming in our way? Because I'm thinking about the smartphone experience, for instance, you know, wide consumer use of it. I remember, I think it was about 10 years ago or a little bit longer than that, when I first heard the word smartphone. And now it has become integral part of our life. What's happening in AI? What do you see happening ahead? Would it be even shorter time horizon than what we have gotten used to the smartphones?
This is an interesting question. So if you look at last 70, 80 years, you could probably pick with 10 or 12 major breakthroughs. So this will be electricity, this will be invention of cars, and so on, the TVs and so on. They will transform our lives. So the way we track how much they influence in our lives, we track it from the early adopter timing to the actual mass production timing. And so you look at the internet, it took about 11 years to come into our lives, everybody's lives. Personal computer, 19 years. Smartphones, 7 years. 7 years. Okay. So what we're predicting in AI is it's going to be less than 7 years. We're not sure it's going to be 3 years and 5 years. But when you reach about 2020 or 2021, this will be as prevalent as what we're using right now with the smartphones, with the AI. That's how fast it will come to us.
Then, you know, there are different societies and countries and so on. And Korea has been known as one of the fast movers here. But overseas, when you're engaged in this VR and AR, and also related to an AI and so on, which case of a society or country you can think of in terms of getting better used to this fast-moving trend?
One of the examples that I saw is from Germany, Adidas. Adidas has made a new concept called Speed Factory. So they're using 3D printing and robotic technology to create shoe manufacturing factories. Now, in the past, we moved our factories to overseas to benefit the low labor costs. But that low labor cost is now quickly rising. So there's no point of having the factories overseas anymore. Also, if you add the transportation cost on top of the manufacturing cost, now you're not actually getting the full maximum benefit by having the factories overseas.
Right.
Now, with the 3D printing technology, Adidas now is able to produce same amount of shoes now that are just not massively produced, but also customized. They're actually measuring the foot shape and also be able to create the shoes in less than a few hours, and they actually bring it to you in 2 or 3 days after you made a purchase decision. And that factory is going to be available in the first quarter of the 2017.
Yes, I think it varies by countries, obviously, but in our prediction that we've done a study, Bain and company done a studies, and what is after the smartphone phase, we see in a 4 area that's going to fundamentally change our lives. The first is the smart home. Smart home category.
Right. IoT.
Yeah, that will change that. The second one is the smart automobile.
Okay.
The driverless driving, self-driving. Third one is the smart care. And the fourth
Healthcare, you mean?
Smart healthcare.
Okay.
And the fourth one is the smart finance
Oh,
investment.
okay.
In these 4 categories will come very quickly. Now, in the B2B dimension, it's changing already.
Right.
But in these 4 B2C, where customers actually could experiment and have actual touch points, I think will happen in the next couple of years.
And I think the key word for that is the personalization. Now, in the past, we had to put ourselves into the common, the most common ground, common denominator. But now, all the services that Mr. Lee has mentioned will be personalized. Everything will be created and designed just for you.
Even medicine, right?
Yeah.
That used to be based on this broad data, but now the medication will be created fitting your own personal, the health conditions and so on. When Mr. Seo gave us an example of Adidas, it kind of creates a concern in my mind as someone who has been looking into international political economy for quite some time. Are we talking about de-globalization of manufacturing here? I mean, no longer the need to locate your production in a lower cost locations around the world. Things will be produced nearby home. And so are we seeing a reverse trend of, I'm talking about the global manufacturing landscape here. Do you agree with that?
Jury's still out. Jury's still out because it takes more than smart way of production to make it overall cheaper. Because you still have you have to still deliver the goods, right? And so I think there are a lot of things that there's taxation issues and so on, raw materials and so on. I think what's interesting is that clearly it's changing the way you define the product and you define the service. So, for example, investing. In the old days, you had to be in New York to invest something,
right?
Because that's where the computer is. That's where the data was. That's where the mainframe was. Today, you could invest anywhere through internet. Right?
In your bedroom.
In your bedroom.
Right.
Now, if you have you could actually borrow space or borrow a memory space in a big computer, and that the computer can do for you. So it's investing while you are sleeping.
You don't really have to do the work.
You don't have to really do the work. So you could basically put certain criteria in a machine and go to bed and come back. They made the money for you.
There comes the more philosophical question of what humans are supposed to do now, right?
Sure.
Last year, I remember a case of Switzerland and Finland towards the end of the year. Switzerland case, they proposed the idea of guaranteed income because people will be losing their jobs, but we need to make sure that people will continue to have income in order to let the economy going. And Switzerland, I think by a large majority, they turned it down, the idea of guaranteed income. But I think Finland decided that they're going to go ahead with that. You're a VR and AR expert, but in a broader sense, as a citizen of society, what do you see? What have you learned, for instance, when we saw these different societies talking about what is it that humans are left to do now?
Well, I think that concern was actually happened every industrial revolution that took place. When steam engine was first introduced in the first industrial revolution, there were people breaking down those steam-powered machines because they were afraid of losing jobs. But actually, it created more jobs in different fields. Every revolution will give us different opportunities because what we're losing, there's certain things that we're gaining too. With the third industrial revolution, we're at the end of the third industrial revolution and the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. And in the third industrial revolution, we're saying that you need to be an expert in different fields. You need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, you need to be a accountant, because the simple job has been taken by the machines. But in the future, those complex jobs will be taken by AI.
Right.
So we are afraid that the direction we were going is no longer valid.
Right.
But I think, on the contrary, we will be able to use artificial intelligence to even do more complex tasks. I don't think doctors are going to be disappearing. There will be the tremendous data that AI will be able to assist doctors, but at the end of the day, it will be the human's call to make the final decision.
We got to talk about what's happening in Korea with regard to this, what seems to be a quite scary trend. And we'll do so right after this interview with the expert talking about what is actually happening in Korea, and we'll follow up with our discussion.
Well, we can think about two aspects. The first would be the so-called labor market aspects, and second aspect would be so-called Korean leaderships in the fourth industry itself. And the first, in terms of the labor market issues, as well known, the fourth industrial revolution is expected to kind of bring about really a new phase of labor market, mainly through the automation by artificial intelligence and other kind of extensive kind of automations. And we expect at maximum scale, almost 47% of traditional jobs might be replaced by the automated kind of machines, mainly kind of taking advantage of the artificial intelligence. In that aspect, if that types of replacement of traditional job by the automated machine would cause a real serious kind of social problems, especially in labor market. And secondly, say also in terms of the market leadership in the fourth industrial revolution itself might be a real worried issues. Already leading economies like Japan and Germany and US has already taken quite a strong leaderships as a first mover. And although we have South Korean economy has some leaderships in the IT gadget industry, still we have some rooms to take over or to kind of to follow up the first movers in those markets. So those technological leaderships would be also quite a worried aspect that we should take care of. Well, we can say at the initial stage of the Korean government efforts to establish the IT industry in Korean economy as a more competitive kind of industry in the world market, I think we can say Korean government has been very efficient in terms of providing basic R&D supports, and also Korean government has been active in providing kind of technological support, even commercializing those basic IT technologies. But lately, say with the kind of new emerging kind of industry, mainly based on the fourth industrial revolution, we can say Korean government has lost kind of leaderships in government industrial policy in providing extensive infrastructures and also providing more applied kind of policy support for commercializing the basic IT technology in comparison to Germany or the United States, US governments. Well, we can say in some phase, Korean industrial policy has been kind of estimated as entering to a kind of so-called somewhat ripened stage. So a more market-based kind of approach has been emphasized, but I wouldn't agree with that kind of estimation that a market-based kind of approach is the best ideal approach, especially in establishing fourth industrial revolution kind of and applying those revolution to general industries.
Well, now talking about what's happening in Korea, IoT, Internet of Things, is one of the big things. And I guess, would you say Korean business in general are more interested in IoT than other areas because it has more of the manufacturing foundation?
Yeah, I think part of that is I think we are the best in the world in the white goods, right? The refrigerator, the laundry machines, and the kitchen aids and so on.
Right.
So I think that's one reason. But I think the other reason is we live in a very close community, in apartment-driven apartment complexes, and the connectivity is best in the world. So I think it's easier for IoT to basically do well. It's difficult more when you live so far apart.
Right.
It's just hard. But I think that also is a driving factor behind the IoT success in Korea.
You've been watching all this progress with a focus on VR and AR, but however in IoT field, would you agree that Korea actually have such advantage? Because we've been hearing IoT progress elsewhere in other countries.
Sure. I mean, in terms of infrastructure, I would say Korea has got one of the best environments out there. By 2018, I think SK Telecom and Korea Telecom will be trying to deploy the 5G connection, which is theoretically 100 to 1,000 times faster than the current connection. So with the big data exchanging, I think the fast speed connectivity will definitely help. But I think at the end of the day, the winner of the IoT will be the data collectors. The limit that we have in Korea is that Korea is this mono-language country, which is we only speak Korean, and so the amount of data we can gather is only among the Korean society. It's very domestic. Google and all other international companies out there, they're all English speaking, and they have such a strong global presence, a global influence, that the amount of data they can gather to improve the IoT service quality will be quite different compared to Korea.
Interesting observation right there. Okay. Let's keep an eye on that issue, whether that's
one thing
the
I
case
want
or
to
not.
add in IoT is that not only the data availability, but also the regulation. I think plays a bigger role in Korea. For example, a lot of financial information, you have to marry that up with the biological information and other demographic information. It's just hard to get across from the industry, financial industry to the normal industry because of regulations. And that's critical for us to kind of advance beyond that. The other one that's a bit difficult for Korea is it's just hard to find data experts in Korean universities or professors.
Why is that? Korea has arguably one of the highest level of higher level education and engineering and science we're doing. No.
Well, I mean, it just has not been the focus for the past. And it's one of those fields where you need a lot more application knowledge than theoretical knowledge. So you have to do it to understand what it is. And one of I think the problems that we're having is that we just don't have a lot of labs, like MIT labs and so on. You can actually experiment with the real data in a connection with the cooperation with the corporations and academics.
Does it have to do with the inertia in the academia? The professors continuing to do what they know, what they have been doing, rather than exploring into new areas in relation with the active business in Silicon Valley, for instance?
I think it's more of the way the Korean industry has grown in the past.
What do you
We've been
mean?
using actually the fast follower strategy, where innovation happens in the elsewhere.
Right.
We learn the innovation and try to using the application of the innovation. But a lot of the data collection and data analysis comes from the innovative perspective, not fast follower perspective. So we've been trying to find a way to make money by copying or making a product better.
Right.
But in the future, where we need to step forward from our current condition, we have to know how to become more analytical and be able to provide innovative perspective on data analysis.
That's a business side of the focus, but continue on with the human resource side of it. If Korea wants to maintain its leading position, or used to be a position of leading the IT development around the world based on our internet infrastructure and so on, human resource is very important. And you mentioned something that's very important. We don't have enough of data experts being nurtured.
Not only data experts, but the AI experts. You could go on the laundry list. Let me give you a good example. When I got the master's in IT, this was in the late 1980s. As soon as I came out of the university with the master's, what I learned in the university was becoming obsolete.
Right. I know how that
because
feels.
it was moving so fast.
Right.
So I had to literally adapt to the changing technology. So my degree was there for credential, but it was really not useful in the job.
Right.
And I think what's happening with a lot of professors with an IT background, the computers backgrounds, and so on, it's a different field now. So I think what they can able to teach is a lot of theories, but in terms of application, you have to really have the real-time experience and real-life experience. And that requires a lot more closed learnings where university students need to actually work in corporation, data experts, and back and forth. And I think that infrastructure, that mechanism and systems not in place in Korea as of today.
In that sense, we may be actually behind China in this overall trend.
Right.
Doesn't China have a similar problem in terms of securing enough of human resources? How are they doing differently, if there is any?
This is interesting. So if you pick two countries that are doing well, it's the U.S. obviously, and the second is China. The U.S. is purely driven by the economics of venture capital.
Right.
So they're basically there's a lot of money going into AI, so that's driving this the growth fuel. China is driven by all government subsidies. We're investing a huge amount of money in terms of infrastructure, in terms of hiring best minds in the world into their campuses, in terms of lab, subsidizing with the R&D. And these are only countries can do, right? It's like a building your highway before your car.
Right.
And that is a huge investment.
But I don't understand, how can government actually see the future road? I mean, in the catching up game and during the previous industrial ages, government could do that. But when you're opening new frontiers, how can that be done, actually?
I think it's, in the past conversation, Mr. Liu was talking about regulation. Korea has positive law, which means that you're only allowed to do certain things.
Right.
If you're not doing this, everything else is illegal. We need to have a more negative law, which means that you shouldn't be doing that, but anything else, you can try it. So what Chinese government is doing is that they're giving all these entrepreneurs an opportunity to do whatever they want, and then they will figure out the law later. So they're more lenient towards to the new trials and new concepts. Whereas in Korea, I see many cases where you try new ideas and that conflicts with the old and conservative law, that you cannot do this, you cannot do that.
Very interesting. That's fascinating case. Do you agree with the observation?
Absolutely. This is what we call the kind of wait and see policy. So what the China see is that you don't know which technology will take off.
Right.
Because there's some outstanding technology, for some reason it doesn't commercialize. Right? So what they're saying is, let's wait and just to see how far this will go. And if people see it and think, wow, this is how the self-driving car works, then they start investing. Where Korea is basically, oh, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. Now, I'm going to just pick on self-driving cars. Now, a lot of people think the self-driving car is just car technology, but it's much more so than that. It is about the image recognition of the buildings. So you have to create a map that is very, very accurate in the world. Now, the problem with Korea is we are so dense, it doesn't work with the satellite.
I see.
Yeah, because you need basically 30 centimeter clearance
Right.
each way to park the car in Korea. It is different from the United States. So satellite cannot pinpoint that. Only way you can do it through map. There are only two companies in the world who has this technology. It's Google, as there's another one technology which the German companies invested.
Right.
So you need a huge investment into map technology to get the self-driving cars going. So I mean, there are things that people haven't thought through, but that's what Mr. Saw says, it requires many different fields of experts to come together and to make this technology happen.
How do you explain that then? I mean, China is doing all this more open-minded stuff, and Korea is sticking with the old paradigm.
Another example is Uber. Uber Korea has, they're serving their Uber service in Seoul. It's very limited services. We go to San Francisco, there's Uber and there's Lyft. There are different kinds of the on-demand services.
Right.
In China, there's Apple has invested $1 billion to a Didi Kwai, the Chinese version of Uber. So why Uber is illegal in Korea and why Uber is legal in China?
In Korea, it's politics.
Exactly.
The power of the organized interest group.
Exactly.
One example here is taxi drivers. So then we find one answer here. Korea already more of established democracy where interest groups have their voice for their own interest. And in China, it's still more top-down the country where the political interest is not as strongly established other than that of the government. Could that be one of the observations?
I don't know what the right answer is, but I think we just need to be careful what is good for the society and what is good for the interest group, and not necessarily listening to interest group is good for the society. That said, I think the Uber issue is a bit more political. As you know, this is the same issue with other countries and so on. We have a similar technologies built by local companies, and it is not the best in the world, but it's still working with the down taxi and so on. I think, but there's an offshoot of where 대리운전, right, is actually working relatively well.
Drivers who come to you to drive your car.
Right,
Okay.
and those technology, I think it applies to.
I see.
So it's not an Uber, but it's Uber.
Okay.
Uber-1.
Okay, so we can have our own variations here.
Variation
Okay.
one, right.
Korea, for one thing, has been kind of well known in recent years in terms of its creativity and entertainment, for instance, right? The K-pop, K-wave, all those kind of stuff. So in a way, I think it shows some possibility and potential to grow in that direction. In your area of VR and AR and so on, do you see that kind of promising side of Korea being more active in content creation, for instance, or still a long way to go?
No, definitely.
Okay.
So virtual reality technology enables the people to see in different parts of the world together in a virtual space. One of the interesting applications I saw for the virtual reality is the virtual live concert. So we have a lot of international fans coming to Korea to see their favorite artists or say favorite performers to perform their live concerts.
Right.
Now, you want to get the best seats in the concert. It's one of the most expensive seats. In order to get that, you have to be in the front of the line to get that.
Right.
But with the virtual reality technology,
These days, not even front of the line. You have to really click it hard and fast.
Right.
Because within seconds, all the seats are gone.
Right. But now we have a streaming technology, the virtual reality 360 video camera. So when you put that camera in the best seat, then you can sell the tickets cheaper.
Unlimited number of people can actually enjoy that experience.
If you're a Manchester United fan in Korea, watch your favorite Manchester United teams play in their stadium at their time with the best seat, but that's going to add you travel cost, time cost, and also ticket cost, and the number of seats is limited. So you have to make sure that you're a fast clicker or you got some networks to get it. But with the virtual reality, you can sell the same seats for 20% of the cost. But number of the seat that you can sell is the number of headsets out there that you can reach out to. So
one of the interesting things of VR is that is a new technology coming in is how it supports the athletes, whether it's taekwondo or sparring.
Sort of like the pilots you talked about, right? Getting used to the
actually
game.
You could replay because it's three-dimensional.
Right.
You could actually think about the certain moves and how the opponent reacts to your moves.
Okay.
And it becomes a lot more. You could do it forever, basically, until you get tired out, because you can practice your moves.
Even the journalism, let's say you're sending your reporter to a war zone to film the intensified situation, but you can literally get killed by accident if you're in a dangerous place. But if you fly a drone with a 360 camera built in it, and then number of drones will give different perspectives of the zone. Now, all you have to do is change your perspective with your headset, then you'll see different parts of that area with a very safe environment.
In a way, that's applied use for journalism, use of the technology that's already widely used within military operations already, right? So we've seen all of
So coming
those
back to your
movies and
question
so on.
about Korea being the cultural lead of the Asia, I think by being able to produce all those interesting content that we can reach out to the mass people is going to be a very beneficial for Korean industry.
I think this is a key point here, is that Korea is a well-connected society.
Right.
But we're not leveraging, right? We're not leveraging the benefit of this well-connectedness into the next wave of technology, which is an AR, VR, and so on.
Right.
And because of regulation.
Okay, so change of mindset is very much necessary. Okay, now let's move on to bigger picture here, and let's look ahead, going beyond Korea. I opened the program with discussion on the mentioning of the CES, the International Consumer Electronics Show 2017. You're an expert here, overall, big picture, IT, Mr. Yi. IT issues for this new year, 2017. that will attract global attention. We already covered VR, AR, all these, but anything missing that?
Well, I think VR, AR. I think the big issue right now is the self-driving cars.
Oh, okay.
This is the one single most important event that will change. So this is kind of straw that breaks the camel's back.
And
right?
it will affect Korea big time because Korea is a very important player.
Everyone's time.
Right.
And the self-driving car encompasses so many different technologies right now, and it's coming to us a lot faster than people realize.
Okay.
And it's already experimenting in U.S., piloting in certain countries in Europe. It will come to Korea, right? And I think we just got to be ready for it with the electric cars. That's going to be hit. The second one is the fintech. Fintech is something that's coming online, and that's going to revolutionize the way we invest in finance.
Fintech, we hear it all the time, and we've been hearing much more for the past several years. But is there something else new other than continued automation of the financial decision making and so on? Or am I talking about something already big and am I downplaying it? Or what is it?
No, the thing about fintech is because the way it encompasses the validity of currency. Why you use currency and coins. These days nobody uses coins anymore, right? So back to the currencies and with the bitcoins and fintech. Now, if it's a fintech goes, the way the fintech works is obviously technology based. And I think one of the interesting about fintech is maybe it took 10 years to gather $10 billion assets in the old days. It only takes 6 months these days.
Why is that?
Because you can gather financial investments much faster through online.
I see.
And the problem with Korea is that you need an experimental platform, which is only 4 banks in Korea. So even you have a fintech technology, you have to marry up with the bank, which is not the world's fastest moving organizations. So I think there's some problems. But fintech is the second one. And then third one we mentioned, which is an IoT, which is easier to implement because the hardware is there. All you have to do is exchange the brain, basically.
Right.
I want to add to the fintech. I think also payment transactions is another interesting area that we should really focus on. Just like Mr. Lee said, people don't carry much money anymore. We carry credit card, but we have Samsung Pay. You can use your mobile phone to pay your transaction. Online payment transaction will become simpler and simpler. There's an e-wallet concept that was introduced at CES. Now the car carries a wallet, so whenever you're traveling around, it is automatically calculating all those toll fees, which we have already with the Korea
so
High-Pass.
it's kind of like RFID concept combined with the financial transactions?
So no, like basically, you don't have to go through all those ActiveX installation or have to go through all those extra steps to make a payment. All you got to do maybe is just simply one touch and you're being paid. You look at the Amazon's new offline shop concept, you don't even have to pay anything. You walk in, grab it, and then the camera will sense which item you just grabbed, how much it's going to cost. And then as you walk in, you're already identified who you are.
So it's not a chip that you're carrying with you or anything like that. It's something that computer does for you from outside.
Yes, with imaging, they already know that you're an Amazon member. Oh. So you walk in, grab something, walk out, and then you're being charged and you're being simply paid.
The privacy is a problem right there, isn't it? Like if voice recognition is so widely used. I think you're talking about the face recognition here. That's going to be a big social problem.
So what do you do with the data? Right? So what do you do with the data? That is a problem. With the closed-circuit TVs around this country, I mean, it's very difficult to go 10 meters without the closed-circuit TV.
That's true. It's already with us, basically. Right. Okay. The AI market development this year, it looks like, Mr. Yi, talking about this year, it sounds like extremely short-term focus here. But if we have to talk about this year, 2017, AI market development, anything to watch particularly?
I think it's going to come into AI in financial investment.
I see.
Because we're already doing it with the program trading. So But now I think it's getting much better at it. And
What they call financial advisors for consumers, for instance?
yeah, so let's say if I want to invest in a steel company, which companies will do it? But so right now we have a program trading that actually does it. Now with an AI, what they do is, let's say temperature goes 2 degrees high, 2 centigrades high. What would that happen to with the soft drink market? So people start buying Coca-Cola. So they can actually connect that with, and globally, this is done globally.
Right.
And then what they're now trying to do is, what would happen if there's something happens in Brazil? How would that stock price would affect in China?
I see.
That's done global. That's all done already. Now that's done both in terms of statistics based on historical based, and based on a deep learning.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think for 2017, I think people will be producing more and more wearable devices to take the benefit of contextual connectivity.
What do you mean by that?
So contextual connectivity means that without knowing, you're transmitting data. So your wearable device will constantly be connected with the internet connection within IoT, and it will send your bio data or your personal behavior data. Even with communicating with the device, you'll collect your personal interest data. So those data will be given out to the companies who own the device. Will start using those data to train their AI to make sure that they will be able to provide more personalized services to you. Now, this all goes to privacy issue.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
But
right.
you know, I think the privacy
Deal with
issue.
It's a reality.
No, I think people will choose to give those contextual data
I see.
in the name of convenience, in the name of productivity.
I see.
And so in
The
2017 and on, I think people will start seeing more and more free services provided by these platform holders in exchange of giving their own data to the company.
Interesting.
Because with the AI,
concept
they need to find a way to collect the data to train their AI. You know, IBM Watson has recently introduced a service called Virtual Agent, which means that basically consumer relation management will be managed by IBM.
Okay.
So Lotte is actually implementing IBM Watson to their consumer good distribution.
Oh.
And
okay.
also Kiel Hospital now implementing IBM Watson to diagnosis of cancer.
Okay.
So we'll see more and more our AI being implemented into our actual services and start collecting data.
One other comment I would have is imaging technology.
Okay.
I think that's going to be making much more leaps and bounds this year, where it used to be just 2D, now it's 3D imaging technology, basically.
And also factories implementing 3D printing technology. The example was Adidas, but there will be more companies out there implementing 3D printing technology to increase the productivity as
Even
well.
in Korea, they talk a lot about 3D printing here in Korea, but I haven't seen it myself.
I think, as I said, Korea is a fast follower. So if you see the Adidas working towards it, they will find a way to actually even do a better job.
What about the related areas, the areas that are related to the VR and AR? There are so many areas, as you mentioned, right? Display, sensor, camera, optics, and sound, and so on.
We will see more and more hardware that will enable the people to experience VR. We see, in just a couple of years ago, it was just Oculus. Oculus is the only company that was producing it, but now we have HTC, Vive, Sony. Now, at CES this year, Microsoft partners, Lenovo has actually announced another HMD, and there's hundreds of different types of HMD coming from China. So we'll see more and more hardware coming in. So hardware will become more of a commodity. Mr. Lee's wearing Fitbit. That when Fitbit was listed in NASDAQ, it was the only wearable device that's collecting meaningful data. But
there was a short while ago.
Yeah, but the stock price after a year has gone down. It was, I think, $20-something to $7-something because there's overwhelming number of the similar wearable devices. So we'll see more and more consumer-friendly headsets coming out. And we'll start to see the consolidation of the market later.
Okay, we're talking about all this futuristic stuff that's coming in our way really quickly. But as one of the specific industry-related questions, taking our steps back, getting closer to reality that we actually feel more comfortable with. Smartphones, Mr. E, last year was a big year for world smartphone manufacturers. Apple introduced their iPhone 7, and then Galaxy Note 7 by Samsung created a lot of controversy and so on. So down to earth, as one final question, what do you see ahead this year for smartphone makers?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. I think the expectation of consumers goes up every year, right? What's next? But you have to understand, even in a computer, this mundane computer, we never use more than 10% of its function, right? I mean, they were building a lot of gadgets and whistles.
Right.
90% we never got to use. Today is the same thing with the smartphone.
Are you saying we are moving away of smartphones era now?
No, I think they're building a lot of whistles and vessels, but it's not a revolutionary as people tend to be. So I'm a bit more pessimistic. They could add more stuff, but I think the lifeness, I mean, the creativiness of what we could use on smartphone, I think there's limitations to what we could do. I think there's some other applications, connectivity we talked about, that's becoming more important. But I don't think that you'll see something dramatically new.
Smartphone as a standing alone device, there is a limit to that.
Absolutely. I think what we could use out of smartphone is pretty much what we're using it as it is. And then I think there's some mobile payments that we could talk about, some remote controls and applications, but I think it will come from the different ARs and VRs and some of the other technology that we've seen. So, you know, would we see something dramatically different 6 months from now? I'm not so sure.
But I want to add a different comment, though. Recently, Samsung bought an AI company called Viv, I think. Now they're implementing the new AI feature to their Samsung Galaxy S8, and Google has added the Google AI also on their phones as well, their own Pixel phone. And smartphone is the only device we carry today, every day, every moment we move around, and they will be the device that. It will be the best device for these platform holders to collect our data and also send the contextual data from the device. So I think there will be a more and more intent from the device manufacturers and also the platform holders to implement the AI to collect the personalized data from your action that you put into the phone.
But only comment is that the actual sales volume is going down on smartphones on that basis, and the margin is going down, and the volume is going down globally. And what it means is they're moving away from the smartphones to wearables. Lenses. So different hardware. So I think that a lot of functionalities are going to be there, but I think it will carry by different instruments. So you see a watch like this, so there'll be more sales of smartwatch connecting to it.
Reminds me of the time several years ago when they were talking about the limit to PC business. Sounds like I'm such an old man now, but a smartphone, I think it's being talked about in a similar way. We're into a whole new game now, and smartphone per se as the central piece of this new economy may be already behind us. We have run out of time already, and this has been a fascinating discussion. So in that sense, we have to thank both of our guests for joining us and sharing wonderful views today. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
Thanks. And we, of course, thank our viewers who have joined from all around the world to find out what's happening in Korea and around the world. And next time, when we talk about important issues for Korea as well as the world, we want to ask you once again, join us. That will be next week. Until then, this has been Kim Byung-jun. Thank you.